You may have had this experience, or you know someone who has, driving a young person, a teenager perhaps, probably, to an event, to school, to a concert, to the theater, to a game, someplace where she's going to meet her friends. And you get within about a block of the destination. She says, okay, this is good, you can let me out here, I'll walk the rest of the way. What is that? If you haven't had the experience, that is so that you know that you are an embarrassment. You are old, you are uncool, and now you have been humbled, duly humbled. It's such a common thing that it's almost like it's built in. Maybe it's an essential thing. Maybe it's all about keeping us humble. The flip side is that as an adult, that is what you are supposed to do for that young person. So if you have children, if you are an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, a neighbor, whatever you are in relation to the kids around you, that you are put on earth to keep them humble, to keep them down to earth. So if those kids are arrogant, obnoxious, full of themselves, cocky, then you're not doing your job. Just saying. It's all about keeping it humble. Well, at first, that was what I thought this passage, this text was about. Jesus is about to be baptized by John the Baptist in the Jordan River. And then he's going to go out into the wilderness and wrestle with the devil. And that's seminary, first century seminary. That's where he gets his MDiv, his Master of Divinity. He gets his ordination certificate, all of that. And he comes back. But in the text, before Jesus even shows up, what do we have? There is no birth story in Mark. We just have John. And John is a real retro kind of figure, a real throwback to an earlier time. He's doing unusual work with his baptism out in the Jordan River. Now, the Jordan would be this river symbolic of entry into the Promised Land. And so there's all kinds of symbolism in this as people are going across and coming back in. This baptism, we're told, is for the remission of sins. It's to wash away sinfulness, to cleanse you. Normally, you would need to go to the temple for that sort of absolution, being absolved of your sins. So what John is doing, in a sense, his work is outside of the law. However, he has this prophetic persona that he has developed and cultivated, and people like it. So as troubling as he is to the system and to the authorities, they can't go and haul him in because he's too popular. And it says all kinds of people are going out to be baptized, to enter into this new life, if you will, to start fresh. Now, John dresses strangely compared to other people. He eats strangely compared to people around him. He lives by himself out in the wilderness. He's kind of like that weird uncle that you might go to visit once on your way to California, but only once. And you're not inviting him to your house, ever, because he's strange. That's John. He's strange. He just stands out in all kinds of ways. This is all part of his mystique. And he is where Jesus begins, according to Mark. Now, why? Why begin this world-changing life and ministry with this strange character in this strange way? Maybe it is all about keeping it humble. Maybe it's a message to the powerful in that time and that society to come down to earth, to come out, to take a look at things from outside of Jerusalem, to remember who you belong to and where you're supposed to be going. A word to these people who have lost their way in this exile at home, stay-at-home time under the thumb of the Romans, the plague of Roman domination. Remember who you belong to. Remember what this is all about. It may be that. It may be to keep the Jesus story grounded itself, just in case Jesus' followers kind of lose all perspective and start thinking they have to build great, big, fancy, beautiful churches and have to wear fancy, expensive vestments and have communion vessels that are all gold and silver, and they need to develop all of these liturgical processes and these doctrines and all of this stuff that we have to say and do and follow in order to be in good graces with Jesus, and stick Jesus in the middle of that when it's not about Jesus. That's about us. Remember where he starts. Remember, John was calling the faithful out and away from all of that encumbrance, all that systemic stuff, out to be refreshed, to be washed clean, and to start anew, keeping it humble. That's what it was about. At least that's what I thought it was about at first, when I read the first time through. And then I read the at first again. And we zoom right through it. How does it begin? How does Mark begin? He doesn't have this long genealogy like Matthew has. He doesn't have singing angels and cringing shepherds and a baby in a barn. He doesn't have this pre-existent creative word through whom all creation comes into being like John. How does he start? He starts literally like this: the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. As it is written in the prophet Isaiah, "See, I am sending my messenger ahead of you to prepare the way for you." Okay. Pretty straightforward. This is how it starts. Here's the beginning. Just like this. And it links back to this event 500 years ago, the exile in Babylon, when all seemed lost. And Isaiah, second Isaiah, delivers this word of hope and promise that you will be coming home, that God hasn't forgotten you. And that event is linked to the event about to happen, the Jesus event, by this character named John. So you could say John is the setup man and Jesus is the closer who's going to bring everybody home finally for good, in the complete way. All right. And that makes sense. And then the story unfolds from there. It starts like this, and here's the story. And Mark tells it. Okay. So what if, instead of what it seems like the other gospel writers are doing, Mark, by telling this story, isn't trying to tell the complete story, as though it's a packaged, complete deal, beginning, middle, end, there, it's all good. What if his story is really only the introduction to the story that is still being told, that is still playing out? This is the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Here's how it starts. And if you look at the end of Mark's gospel, it works because there's no ending. At the very close of Mark's story of Jesus, Jesus has been crucified, buried in the tomb. The women go to the tomb that Sunday morning. The tomb is open. There's no body. They meet this angel who says, "Go tell the others he's not here. He has risen. Don't be afraid." And what do? They run away, scared to death, and don't say anything to anybody. The end. But it's not the end. It's just getting started. This is the story right now. And you're in it right now. So what are you doing? What part are you playing in the story? Bert's dad was a farmer. A great big, gruff, intimidating man. Not a nice human being at all. His mom was the sweetest, kindest, most generous person you would ever want to meet. Now, how they got together and stayed together, God only knows, if God even knows. Now, there were 3 children from this marriage. Bert was the youngest. He had an older sister and older brother, and as soon as they were old enough to leave home, they did. And they didn't come back. Bert stayed there. And he still lives on that farm place where he grew up. Now, he was exceptional as a child, as a young person, not because he was so intelligent or studious or athletic or musically talented or gifted. He was exceptional because he had a speech impediment. He stuttered rather profoundly. And he developed this defensive practice, I think, of when a word would get stuck, he would make fun of himself before anybody else did. He had ways of doing that. So, for instance, in class, in school, he would be asking a question or answering a question, and one word he got caught on a lot was because. Because he would smack himself on the face, like hitting the phonograph when the record is stuck, the needle, to jar it, so then it would get going. And it worked. And of course, it was meant to make us laugh, provide humor, so it wasn't so painful. And so that he could share in the joke, he could create it rather than be it, I guess. But it was still sad. One time in 7th grade health class. Do you remember 7th grade health class? Yeah, okay. Boys and girls, separate? Were you separate? Yeah, because we're different. And heaven forbid that boys should know what's going on with girls and girls should know what's going on with boys, because, well, they'll never get together, right? So it's unbelievable. Anyway, so a group of 7th grade boys in class with the Phi-Ed health teacher, who's a coach, teaching. And we're learning the skeletal muscular system of the human body. And Mr. Jensen has the chart up front, and he's pointing to, we're doing muscles, and he points to the muscle, and then we're supposed to raise our hand and give the name without looking in the book, and then he'll write it up there, and that's how we process and rehearse. And he comes to the muscles of the chest, which are the pectoralis major muscles. And Bert knows that one. He doesn't know a lot of the other ones, but he knows that one because it's kind of a funny word or words. And so, and Bert's left-handed, so his left hand goes out. I know that one. Call on me. I know. And Mr. Jensen is looking around trying to ignore Bert because it never goes well when Bert answers questions. But nobody else wants to say this or knows it. Bert is. So Mr. Jensen says, yes, Bert. And he goes, yeah, that's the and it goes on and on and on. And he leaves out that essential T in the first word. So you get that like woodpecker without the wood over and over and over again amongst a class of 7th grade boys. By the time he finishes, it's a long road. By the time he gets done, most of us are literally beside our desks, on our knees gasping for air because we're laughing so hard. Mr. Jensen, who is this tall, athletic, blonde, Nordic, blue-eyed, stoic human being, just sits down at his desk and lays his head down. I don't know if he's laughing or weeping, but he's just sort of shaking. And the class is done. We're just done. It's done. That's school with Bert. That's what it was like to be in class with Bert. Now, he's a dear friend. We've known each other almost 60 years since we were little kids. And we've done a lot together, had great fun together, done things we shouldn't have done together, all the way through school and band, both of us getting kicked out of band at different times for things that we collaborated on, and sports, lots of sports, especially baseball. Baseball was the sport that Bert was the best at, and Bert wasn't really that good. But he was a baseball magnet. If anybody was going to get hit, it was Bert with the ball. And at least once a game, he would take a ball somewhere on his body. It would be a pitch that would hit him in the back or the side or the arm or the head. Or he would lose a fly ball out in the outfield in the sun. It would whack him on the, right on the forehead. Or he'd be at first base because he's a left-hander, and somebody throws the ball and he misjudges it and it catches him in the face. And we knew it was going to happen. It was just like it was in the script. And so we just waited. Bert's going to get hit. When's he going to get hit? There it is, yes! And we would laugh, and it hurt. You could tell it hurt, but he never cried. He just grimace and and onward he would go. Bert provided comic relief for us all the way through school and beyond, and still does. He is this lovable sort of goofball, this sweet man now, who never took himself very seriously and who was never taken very seriously. So, 3 years ago, my aunt had died, my mom's sister. And my cousin was having a gathering for her. They didn't have funerals. They just had these come-and-go gatherings, and people came just to talk and to eat and drink and remember and celebrate and grieve. And I went, and Bert was there with his sister and his brother because they were neighbors to my aunt and uncle for years. The farms were about not even a quarter mile apart. And so there was a lot of back and forth, and that's how I got to know Bert. So they're there, and they're sitting, and there's this whole table full of people talking about the old neighborhood and who lived where, when. And they were there, and then they moved in. Who moved in after them, and what's the progression, and who married whom, and when did that happen, and where are their kids, and all this stuff, that is in a particular geographical area. And if you stick around for a while, you catch some of it. Well, who do you suppose is sitting there in the center, answering the questions, providing the information, telling the story? It's Bert. He has this mental map that he carries that doesn't have just the present but goes back, has layers to it, and he has the people and the relationships and the marriages and the kids. There's all kinds of information that he carries around that you would never imagine that he would pay any attention to. And I'm watching this and listening to this and realizing I'm seeing something in this man, seeing inside of him something that I never would have guessed was there. I never even looked for it. And that's to my shame. I realize afterwards, I did not, though I love this man, I did not respect him. I did not really respect him. He was a clown. He was sweet and lovable, but there was no substance there, I thought. I mean, that's really how I processed it, I realize. And I figured I was somehow superior to him. And I have that in me. I compare and I judge and I rank. And it's awful. And I hate it. And I struggle with that. Because, see, the truth is, as a wise man once said, we are all just walking each other home. We're all just walking each other home. And we make the trip well together, or we make it poorly together. We share and create the story together well or poorly, but that's what's happening. It's the story. This is the beginning of the good news of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. As the prophet Isaiah says, I send my messenger before you to prepare the way for you to travel. And as I listen to, pay attention to, learn to respect my goofy, intelligent, adaptive, wise, gracious old friend. He is helping to prepare the way in me for a fuller sense of Christ to come to life, to be born. And now, having told you that story, maybe I am providing the same sort of service, preparing the way for you and in you for what needs to happen in your life this season. Because you see, the story is not over. This is the story. And you and I are in it. So, where are you right now in the story? Are you on the way? Are you in the way? Are you out of the way? Are you preparing the way? May the way of Christ find its way more deeply and fully in you. Amen.